Have you ever watched it happen? A crypto trader just completely trapped in a death spiral. They're glued to the charts, throwing good money after bad, absolutely convinced that the next buy will be the one that turns it all around. It's a special kind of pain to see. Well, today we are diving deep into a really radical proposal that's designed to break that very cycle. It's a concept called the crypto asylum.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get into the psychology of the trap these traders fall into. Then, we'll look at the surprising economic theory that explains why this happens. After that, we'll get to the main event, the radical solution itself, how it works, how it avoids being abused, and then we'll zoom out and ask, what could this mean for the future of crypto?
Okay, so to really understand why a solution this out there is even on the table, we've got to get inside the head of the person it's for, the cornered crypto trader. This quote from the source material just hits different. It gets right to the heart of it. This isn't just about charts and numbers on a screen. We're talking about a real human element here, watching someone make worse and worse decisions, all driven by this toxic cocktail of fear and, believe it or not, hope.
And these analogies are just perfect, aren't they? They really capture the whole paradox. The trader isn't doubling down because they're confident. No, they're doing it out of raw desperation. They're swinging wildly because it feels like the only move they have left, even though it's making everything catastrophically worse. So what is going on here? It just seems to fly in the face of all logic. But it turns out there's this fascinating, almost kind of scary economic theory that explains this behavior perfectly.
I mean, this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Basic Economics 101 says when something gets less valuable, you want less of it. Demand should go down. But in this trap, the complete opposite happens. The behavior seems irrational, but it's not random.
So the answer is this concept called a Giffen good, or as the source calls it, a cornered good. Now, think about it like this. In the classic example, if the price of rice skyrockets for a very poor family, they might actually have to buy more rice because now they can't afford anything else, like meat or vegetables. For the trap trader, that collapsing coin becomes their rice. It's the only path they can see to escape the pain it's causing. The rising cost of ruin doesn't push them away, it corners them.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. We saw this play out in a massive, real-world catastrophe. After the Luna collapse, you had people whose entire portfolios were suddenly 95% worthless loons. Selling at that point, that means admitting it's over, that the loss is real and life-altering. So the only path they could see, as illogical as it sounds, was to double down and pray for a miracle. And don't think for a second this is just about some random speculative altcoins. The exact same logic can trap a Bitcoin trader. Imagine you're way over-leveraged in a bear market, and liquidation is staring you in the face. That immense pressure doesn't always make you cut your losses. Instead, it corners you into throwing more collateral at the problem, just fighting to keep that position alive, because closing it feels like absolute failure.
Okay, so if the diagnosis is that a trader is psychologically cornered, what's the cure? Well, this is where the source suggests something pretty wild, actually. And it borrows the idea from a totally different field. All right, first things first, we have to be crystal clear on this point. This is not a bailout. It is not about rewarding someone for making a bad decision. Think of it more like a circuit breaker, designed to stop a destructive behavioral loop before it leads to complete and total ruin. And here is where the idea gets really, really interesting. It reframes the entire problem. It's not just a market loss anymore. It's a behavioral issue, almost like an addiction. So the solution is inspired by harm reduction. You see this in public health, where you intervene in a very targeted way to stop the worst possible outcome from happening.
So how in the world would this crypto asylum actually function? Let's get into the nuts and bolts, the actual mechanics of this proposed on-chain intervention.
So the whole thing is designed to be automated and very precise. First, an algorithm scans for traders who are truly cornered. We're talking people with over half their entire portfolio value wiped out by one single collapsing asset. Then, the protocol offers them a small airdrop. But, and this is the whole key, if you accept it, it triggers a mandatory lock on your entire position in that asset. And that lock isn't just for a weekend. We're talking 3 whole months. That is a long time in crypto. And the goal is to force a real, genuine timeout. For 3 months, the trader is just cut off. They can't buy more, they can't sell. All they can do is step back, take a breath, and hopefully break that compulsive cycle of staring at charts and making desperate moves.
And according to the source, this is where the design is actually pretty clever. It's supposed to be a win-win. The individual trader gets a forced detox, a chance to escape that psychological pressure cooker. And at the exact same time, the market as a whole benefits because you're removing a panicked seller who might otherwise start dumping other assets to cover their losses. It improves overall stability.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. What's to stop people from just gaming this system? Couldn't some degen speculator intentionally get cornered just to get a free airdrop? Well, the proposal has some safeguards built right in to prevent exactly that.
First off, that entry condition is incredibly high. This isn't for somebody who gambled 5% of their portfolio and lost. That greater than 50% rule is designed to target only those people whose entire financial situation is genuinely on the line. That signals a true psychological trap, not just a casual bet that went wrong. Yeah, and this slide just lays out the difference perfectly. On one side, you have the cornered trader. They're psychologically trapped, they're self-destructive, and they're just hoping to break even. On the other side, you've got the degen speculator. They're making a calculated risk, hoping for 100x gains. The asylum is only for the person on the left. I mean, let's be real. No rational speculator is going to lock up their capital for 3 months just for a tiny airdrop. The lock is the real medicine here.
So let's pull back from the nuts and bolts for a second. What does an idea like this really mean for the crypto world as a whole? Let's zoom out and think about the bigger, more philosophical side of building a system like this.
What this proposal really does, at its core, is throw a direct challenge at that survival of the fittest mentality that runs so deep in financial markets. It's making the case that maybe, just maybe, an intervention isn't about weakening the system. Maybe it's about making it more resilient and, frankly, more humane by protecting it from the most extreme forms of human behavior. And that really leaves us with the final, big, provocative question. Is something like the crypto asylum a necessary evolution for a market that's growing up? Or is it a slippery slope, a step towards the kind of oversight and the kinds of limits on freedom that crypto was supposed to be an escape from in the first place? That's the debate an idea this radical forces us all to have.